If a man were to collapse deep in the wilderness, in the very heart of a brown bear's territory, would the bear spare him or claim him as prey? Most people think they know the answer. But what happened to Eli, a young ranger patrolling alone in the sunlit woods, defied every instinct and every rule of survival? The forest that morning was alive with golden light. Sunbeams filtered through the canopy, tracing quiet patterns on the forest floor. The air was cool, dry, and sharp with the scent of pine needles and distant rivers. Eli moved carefully through the undergrowth, eyes sharp, footsteps light. He was 30 years old, seasoned in fieldwork, and committed to protecting the land he served. That morning he was following a tip, reports of illegal traps found in the western stretch of the reserve, a place strictly off limits to the public. More importantly, that part of the forest was claimed by one of the region's largest brown bears. Still, Eli pressed on. The light grew brighter with every step. Birds stirred in the distance, insects hummed in the brush, and the occasional creak of old bark echoed above. After nearly an hour, he found what he'd been searching for. A rusted wire snare looped tight around a fallen branch, half hidden in dry leaves. There were boot prints in the dirt. Fresh ones. He crouched, inspecting the scene, then froze. A wave of dizziness hit him. His hands trembled. His canteen was nearly empty. The walk had drained him more than he realized. His chest tightened with each breath. His limbs felt as though they were being pulled downward. He tried to stand but couldn't. Eli stumbled to the edge of a shallow stream bed and dropped to his knees, slumping against the crooked trunk of a willow. Sunlight poured through the branches above, glowing gold on stone and soil. His vision flickered. His hands sank into the earth. Then stillness. Moments passed. The forest held its breath. And then a shadow moved. From the edge of the clearing, a shape emerged. It stepped forward slowly, silently. Broad shoulders, thick fur, eyes dark as amber, a brown bear. The animal stood no more than 10 meters away. Its breathing was calm, its gaze fixed on the man who lay helpless beneath it. It did not growl, did not charge. It watched. Then, as if concluding some ancient ritual, the bear lowered its massive body to the ground and sat. Not in fear, not in dominance, but in silence. Eli lay still beneath the willow, weak, barely conscious. And in that moment, bathed in sun, surrounded by quiet, a memory surfaced from long ago. A memory of this forest, of another moment in time, of a tiny bear cub caught in a trap, and a decision made that day that would echo far beyond what anyone could have imagined. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled golden light across the forest floor. Eli lay motionless by the stream bed, his breath shallow, his mind drifting between now and then. And then, the memory came. Years ago, in this very forest, long before the lines on his face or the weight in his eyes, Eli was still a young ranger, eager, idealistic, and freshly assigned to this northern reserve. It had been a bright, windless morning. The birds sang above the canopy, and the sound of running water echoed through the trees. Eli had been walking near the northern stream when a sharp, unfamiliar sound pierced the quiet. A cry, high-pitched, frantic. He froze, listened. The cry rang out again, closer this time. Urgent, weak. He moved quickly, brushing past low branches and stepping over tangled roots until the forest opened just enough for him to see. A bear cub, no more than a year old, trembling violently, its hind leg caught tight in a steel snare that had dug into flesh. Blood stained the earth around it. It cried out again, helpless, terrified. And just beyond the clearing, half concealed in brush, stood the mother, a full-grown female brown bear. She growled low, a deep and trembling sound, not a threat, but a warning. She stood frozen, body tense, eyes fixed on Eli. Her instinct told her to protect, but she didn't move. Not yet. Eli understood exactly what that moment meant. One wrong move, and he wouldn't walk away. He took a breath, raised his hands slowly. The rifle remained strapped across his back, untouched, unused. He didn't want to show force. He didn't want to run. Instead, he stepped forward, cautiously, deliberately, never taking his eyes off her. She held her ground. Eli knelt beside the cub. The snare was cruel and tight, buried into the leg. He reached for the blade on his belt, slowly, visibly, then began to saw through the wire. The metal groaned with every movement. The cub whimpered again, flinching, but stayed still. Finally, with one last pull, the snare gave way. The cub stumbled free. It limped toward its mother, who lowered her massive head and nuzzled the little one, pulling it close. Then she looked at him. That moment, those few silent seconds, never left him. It was not a look of fear, nor of anger. It was not submission, nor gratitude in the way humans know it. It was something quieter, deeper, recognition, a silent acknowledgement, not between predator and prey, but between two beings whose paths had crossed at a point of mercy. Now, years later, as sunlight painted the earth around him, Eli lay weak and breathless beneath a tree, and he wondered, could the massive bear now sitting just a few feet away be that same cub, all grown up? The wind moved gently through the ferns, whispering through the forest like an ancient voice. Sunlight streamed through the canopy, casting a soft amber glow across the forest floor. Eli still lay motionless, eyes barely open, breath shallow. The brown bear remained beside him, still, watchful, unmoving. There was no growl, no threat in its posture. Only presence, solid, grounded, like a living boulder in the heart of the woods. Somewhere beyond the undergrowth, a twig snapped, a rustle, barely audible, but not unnoticed. A pair of eyes blinked in the shadows. A lynx, silent and cautious. Moments later, another shape shifted between the trees. Perhaps a wolf. Predators, drawn by scent. They saw what the bear had seen, a human being, alone and vulnerable. But the bear responded before they could come closer. It raised its head, not in panic, just in quiet command. Then with one deep breath, it let out a low, rumbling growl, a sound like distant thunder rolling through the hills. That was all it took. The intruders vanished into the brush, leaving nothing behind but silence. The forest stilled once more. The wind resumed its gentle hum. The leaves trembled in sunlight, and the bear settled again. It didn't move closer. It didn't walk away. It simply remained, a sentinel in fur. Eli, half conscious, couldn't open his eyes fully, but he felt it. The threat was gone. The fear had faded. There was only sunlight and the quiet presence of a creature he had once saved. No words were spoken, no glances exchanged, but the message was clear. Sometimes to be protected, all one needs is to be remembered. Back at the ranger station, miles away, the tension was mounting. Eli hadn't checked in. He had left early that morning, and now the sun hung high in the sky. Mark, his closest colleague and longtime friend, stood over the map table, silent, focused. He knew Eli was skilled, but the forest could be unforgiving. Poachers, dehydration, predators. Sometimes one mistake was all it took. Within the hour, a rescue team was dispatched. With tracking dogs, first aid gear, and stretchers, they followed the faint trail Eli had left behind. Boot prints in dry soil, disturbed grass, scraps of rusted wire that had once been part of a snare. The forest was warm under a gentle midday sun, quiet except for the distant calls of birds and the whisper of leaves. Nearly 2 hours into the search, one of the rangers raised a hand. He'd seen something, a clearing, a shift in the earth, signs of recent activity. They moved forward and stopped. There, beneath the soft shadows of the trees, stood a massive brown bear. It had its back to them, unmoving, blocking their path. Just a few steps beyond it, barely visible in the grass. Eli, unconscious, motionless. Mark gripped his rifle instinctively. Any movement from the bear could be the spark of disaster. But then, something unexpected happened. The bear didn't growl. It didn't charge. It stood still for a moment, as if weighing something deeply. Then slowly, it turned away. No glance, no sound. It simply stepped forward, calm, unhurried, and walked into the trees, disappearing into the forest without leaving a trace. Not retreating, not fleeing, but leaving, as though its purpose there had been fulfilled. Mark rushed to Eli's side and dropped to his knees, fingers to the neck. A pulse, faint but steady. "He's alive!" Mark shouted, his voice thick with relief. The team moved quickly, preparing the stretcher, lifting Eli with practiced care. The clearing was silent now. No sign of the bear remained. Only sunlight still filtering through the trees and the lingering feeling that something extraordinary had just passed. No one spoke for a long while. No one had ever seen anything like it. Mark, before turning away, looked back one last time. There was nothing there. Only golden grass moving gently in the wind. And yet, it felt as though someone had just left. Not an animal, a guardian, a bond that needed no words, a farewell delivered in silence. In the back of the rescue vehicle, Eli slowly regained consciousness. The hum of the engine filled the space, mingling with the whisper of wind slipping through the open window. Sunlight streamed in from the sky above, making him squint as he stirred. His head throbbed. His throat was dry as dust. Every part of his body ached. Then a face came into view. Mark. His expression was a mix of disbelief and deep relief, as though part of him still couldn't believe what he was seeing. "You're awake," Mark said softly, trying to steady his voice. "We thought we lost you." Eli blinked slowly, his gaze drifting, then pausing as something flickered in his memory. His face changed. "The bear," he whispered. "It didn't hurt me." Mark remained quiet for a moment, then gave a slow nod. "It protected you." No one in the vehicle said anything more. Only the sound of tires crunching gravel, the rhythm of breath, and sunlight dancing past the windows. Weeks later, Eli returned to the forest. It was the same stretch of wilderness, the western edge where it had all happened. He didn't go deep this time. No rifle, no team, just him, standing near the tree line, where the light from the valley cast a soft glow across the ridges. The wind moved gently, rustling the tall grass around his boots. Then, on a high outcrop across the slope, a figure emerged, broad, still, familiar. The brown bear. It stood motionless, didn't advance, didn't retreat. It simply looked, and Eli looked back. No fear, no caution, just quiet recognition. Between the man and the beast, there was no longer a boundary, only understanding. Neither moved, neither spoke. There was no need, just one final glance, still, deep, enough to say, "We've met, we've saved each other, and we will not forget." The forest remained as vast as ever, but for Eli, it would never be the same again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay with us for more stories to come.